Hello, viewers. Hope all of you are doing truly well, as I always keep asking you. Uh, as fear of the new strain of COVID, Omicron grips the globe, that too when we seem that we are going to go back to normal soon, from like we call it pandemic to endemic, as most of the doctors and experts around were saying. What do we do here? So it's really, we are here to understand facts over fear, the newer strains, vaccines, immunity, nutrition, so many questions in our mind. Let's get them answered from these global experts who we really are so very happy that they are with us today. We have Dr. Rahul Kamble, who is infection specialist from very much here from Mumbai, Lilavati Hospital. He is globally trained and experienced. We have Dr. Mohan with us. He is a chest physician and has extensive experience really in intensive care, and along with it, he is a firm believer of technology as well. And then we have Dr. Ravi Godse with us, who will be joining from Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, of course, and we are going to get some global insights right from US from him as well. And me, of course. Nutrition expert Rajashree Gadgil, to give you a quick intro about me, as I really am the CEO and the founder of TRUWELLTH Integrative Healthcare Centers and RSG Nutrition and Healthcare. Having worked globally with say 20 plus years of experience, I firmly believe that nutrition therapy can be modern day's most effective and safe truth in so many ailments, especially lifestyle, autoimmune, and it's really proven through COVID that also infections is something we can fight better if we have better nutrition. I, of course, have a master's from the Lokmanya Tilak Sign Hospital here in Mumbai and an MBA. And I've conducted over 300 programs with 1,000 plus faculty. We have reached almost more than a million viewers on this True Wealth Health TV through the pandemic and before. And while we're hoping the pandemic is going to end and this is going to be an endemic, we have the pleasure of having. I would like to introduce, of course, and I would like to get him right here on the panel here. I'm trying to see. Yes, Dr. Rahul Kamble, welcome to our show, and I'm going to give a brief introduction of him while he comes on this virtual stage. Dr. Kamble, of course, many degrees that he has to his name. He is MBBS MD, of course, in microbiology. He has diploma in infectious diseases, PGDBA, PGDHM. So he's not only studied infectious diseases but also hospital management and management across PGDCR, PGDMR, PGDOM, PGDMLS, PGDIM, and I'm sure a lot of us may not even know all of these degrees, but these are really acclaimed degrees that he has. He's currently associated with the Lilavati Hospital and Research Center, Mumbai, and he has more than 13 years of experience in clinical microbiology and infectious diseases control. His expertise and experience actually includes infectious diseases control and microbiological stewardship. He has done he has done airborne infection control course from the Harvard Medical School, infectious diseases diploma from the UNSW Australia, and recently an international course in vaccinology, which is really apt from CMC Bangalore. So best institutions world over and India, and he of course works with the coveted Lilavati Hospital, Asian Heart Hospital, and the Hinduja Hospital. So it's a great pleasure to have him here. Many more introductions of his, and I'll try to do that through the course of the program. I'd like to bring him to speak here today, and so many questions to our mind, and I'm sure you are going to help us gain answers to them. While there is, of course, intrinsic fear from all ends that we have today. So, but first, we would like you to say a few words, and talk to our viewers, who are obviously, all of us are confused right now. So please unmute yourself.
A very good evening to all, and thanks, ma'am, for a very kind introduction. It's indeed a pleasure speaking on this esteemed platform on the topic of my passion, that is infectious diseases control. Uh, it's good to speak. It's a necessary. It's a require. Uh, it's a global emergency that we are facing about COVID-19, and I like to. It's a pleasure answering the questions from the participants here on COVID-19 infection control and topics related to the vaccines and the preventive measures for the prevention and control of COVID-19.
Sure, and I'm really waiting to bombard you with a lot of questions that we already have here, and extensive knowledge and experience that seen that you have in, not just your knowledge, but also experience in treating infections. And I'm really going to ask you a very simple question to begin with. It might sound a little too silly, but what has happened is, since 2020, early 2020, we have had several definitions of COVID-19. By now we don't really understand what COVID-19 means. Honestly, I mean, though we know a lot, what does it really mean to us today, COVID-19 infection?
Uh, COVID-19 is actually a syndrome. COVID-19 is an abbreviated. It stands for coronavirus disease 19. 19 is so called because it was identified in the year 2019, hence COVID-19. Now, let me explain with a help of an image here. Now, COVID-19 is caused by a virus which belongs to coronavirus group of viruses. These are the RNA group of viruses. Now, the peculiarity of this virus is that it causes severe acute respiratory syndrome. So similar severe acute respiratory syndrome was caused by coronavirus in the year 2003. The same way we have pandemic now, the similar pandemic was caused in the year 2003 by SARS-CoV virus. Now, similar virus is causing SARS infection syndrome in the year 2019. Now, every living entity wants to survive, and there is a fight for survival and survival of fittest. Hence, the same was done by the SARS-CoV-2 virus. It undergone a number of mutations which resulted into variants, and variants were studied by research groups under WHO. And this research group have classified these variants with similar genetic lineage into different lineages. As we can see from this image, the Pango research group under WHO has grouped these various lineages of SARS-CoV-2 into 4 groups, like B1.1.7, B1.351, and others. WHO has come with a recent nomenclature that is now labeling these lineages as alpha, beta, gamma, delta. So, for example, delta. For example, if you see the alpha group variant, it belongs to B1.1.7 Pango lineage, which was first identified in UK to September 2020. Similar beta was identified in South Africa.
So I'm
Gamma was
sorry to
identified in
interrupt.
Brazil.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. Hope you're not showing any slides. If you are, they're not being seen.
I'm showing the slides.
If you can share it, I think, with us.
Is it visible, the slides?
No, we're not able to see them. I think if you can try stop sharing it. Yes, now we can see it. Yes.
I'm extremely sorry.
No, sorry about that. Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
So if you refer to this image, we have different lineages. Lineages means a group of variants with similar genetic
If you could make it
composition.
full screen. If you could make it full screen.
It's a full screen only. So we have this different lineages studied by the researcher Pango research group under WHO has been labeled as alpha, beta, gamma, delta. So alpha was first identified in UK, beta in South Africa, gamma in Brazil, delta in India. So this group of lineages are called as variants of concern because they have attributes that make them fitter than the previous version. They are more fitter than the previous original SARS-CoV-2 virus. Delta is more significantly more transmissible but somewhat resistant. However, gamma shows some resistance but enhanced infectivity. Beta shows significant resistance, while alpha had more spread more rapidly than the predominant virus. So this was the peculiarity. This is the peculiarity of all the different variants of concern. Now, recently we have another variant of concern, that is Omicron. Omicron, according to Pango lineage, belongs to B1.1.529 lineage. The peculiarity of this Omicron variant of concern is that it has around more than 30 mutations in the. If we see the SARS-CoV-2 virus, the peculiarity of this Omicron lineage is that it has undergone more than 30 mutations in the spike protein. This is the structure of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, wherein this virus has structural proteins called as spike proteins, which enables it to attach to the host epithelial cells. Now, the Omicron, what it has done, it has undergone mutations into the spike protein so that it escapes the diagnostic methods, it escapes the immune response from the host, and as also the therapeutics offered against it. It's all this done is for its fight for survival. So because of these mutations in the spike protein, the Omicron is able to remain more transmissible, more infective. There are preliminary studies says that it has a more transmissible infectivity. However, the studies regarding its mortality and morbidity is still unclear. So that is all about this different lineages of SARS-CoV-2 and about COVID-19.
Well, this was great.
I hope that I answered your question.
Yes, and absolutely. So this is really, I mean, we wanted you to explain it, to break it down into these, images and make us really understand that what this complicated virus, which looks in simple words, it's much easier to understand. And you also tried to give us the historical insight, what really, how we can understand the mutations. So that's you really answered two of my questions instead of one, which because this was going to really be the next. And the other thing also, what people find complicated in terms of symptoms is that these days now, in Mumbai, of course, we had rains in winters, which is something unusual, and there are climate changes. So how much does the climate change, of course, affect COVID-19, but also because now we have different infections coming up. How does one differentiate between a COVID-19 infection and a normal viral or bacterial infection? Because earlier we had distinct differentiation. Now this has gotten a little less severe. So can we really still identify between the two infections?
It's indeed I agree. It's a problem for clinicians distinguishing the clinical symptoms of SARS-CoV-2 from influenza or MERS, that is Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, or a common cold, or other tropical diseases like dengue, malaria, and chikungunya. It becomes difficult in this pandemic to differentiate the symptoms of these different infectious and communicable diseases. For the confirmation, we use diagnostic methods like molecular tests like PCR, or the rapid tests like antigen, or we depend upon for confirmation of a particular infectious disease on other hematological parameters like CBC and others. But if you see just only the clinical symptoms, the common, if you see common cold, to differentiate it from influenza or SARS-CoV-2, common cold usually presents with sneezing, If you see COVID-19, the first particular specific symptoms to COVID-19 is fever. Fever is the first symptom to appear in COVID-19. While in influenza, it is a cough and sore throat. The other distinguishing features of all influenza and COVID-19 and MERS is that in COVID-19 and influenza, the GI feature is anorexia, nausea, and vomiting, while in MERS, it is diarrhea. So some of these clinical features, depending upon the one set of symptoms, helps the clinician to differentiate the different infectious diseases. How still for the definite diagnosis of this infectious diseases, the mainstay remains the diagnostics methods. And now in this pandemic, more and more dependency on the molecular tests like PCR. Now for we have fever, we have a molecular tests like fever panel. Where in this fever panel we have different infectious diseases getting identified by an R, such as dengue, malaria, chikungunya, leptospira, and typhoid. Or we have different separate molecular tests for influenza and COVID-19. So this molecular tests help us to identify particular infectious diseases. While our clinical symptoms, though they nearly remain the same, but some features like cough, fever, so depending upon the one set, help the clinicians to differentiate them.
So that really specifies that testing is still important. I mean, even though testing, a lot of us probably are not testing or not getting severe infections, that doesn't mean that we should stop testing. And
testing is very important. It has been observed in the last 1 year when people used to come with a symptom similar to COVID-19, and COVID-19 is to be negative by PCR. But then when we used to go for influenza, they used to come positive with H3N2, not H1N1. And what was observed in the last 2 years in our city, it was more of H3N2. So there has been so it's not only was just COVID-19, but it was also swine flu or the influenza that was been observed in this pandemic.
Another question, I mean, we would also like to know is again, then in these cases, are you seeing that patients are needing hospitalization right now in the current scenario? And if with the new strains, how do we understand when does a patient really need hospitalization? Because earlier we of course knew that there was a breathlessness and other cues, but at this current juncture, what are the type of patients, when do you advise people to go to a hospital? Or should they just be treated at home?
A patient better get treated at home, but for elderly patients more than age of 65 or who are immunosuppressed, or we advise them to get hospitalized. Or even if a patient who with exaggeration of symptoms like breathlessness or chest pain or confusion, bluish lips or pinky eyes, for such symptoms which indicate a severe COVID-19 infection. For such patient presenting with such severe symptoms of COVID-19, we advise them to get hospitalized. Or patients who are with mild symptoms or asymptomatic and tested positive with COVID-19, better we advise them for home isolation. The home isolation period we advise them is for 21 days from the one set of symptoms, or if they are asymptomatic, then for 21 days from the first positive report. And while during home isolation, then we instruct them or advise them to follow all the infection control measures to prevent transmission of the COVID-19. COVID-19 being a very highly infectious airborne disease. Even if a person sneezes or coughs, or the infectious particle can remain into the air, depending upon the ventilation of the room for hours and for days. So hence we advise them, whoever get infected, to stay in a well-ventilated room so that the pathogen expelled from the body to respiratory tract gets diluted and doesn't spread to the other individuals. Also, we tell them to to advise them to follow hand hygiene or personal hygiene measures, use of antiseptics, then disinfectants for the things they have used, to avoid crowded areas, and then to use a mask to prevent the transmission of the pathogens.
I must say, Dr. Kamble, that microbiology was one subject we all used to run away when we did study, and you have such extensive knowledge, and you're sharing all perfect, inputs with us one after other, and it's so clear that if we have this kind of clarity, and if these are the kind of doctors who are there to guide us, I mean, obviously, the fear level is already 50% down. At least that's happening to me. I'm sure it's happening to the
It's a
audience
pleasure
out here.
sharing.
Yes. So we are really glad you're here with us today, and I would of course ask you a couple of more questions, and then later in the show as well, I'm sure there will be questions from the audience. But one last question in the first question and answer thing is like we all talk about these days. There are plethora of people saying we need immune boosting, and I want to bring this up because you're the specialist in this, and everyone talks about immune boosting. Have we really understood this word very well? Because honestly, I mean, if you can explain simply what immunity means and what is immunocompetence and what is immune boosting, because what we have observed that in COVID patients, in fact, over immunity has been a cause for severity, and if you could explain that a little to us again.
Thanks for a very good question. In this, what let me explain about immunity. What is immunity? Immunity is the body's response against any foreign agent. Say in this case, a viral. So immunity manifest in the body by releasing of cytokines and chemokines, which helps to destroy the pathogen. Now, in case of COVID-19, what we see, it is being observed. A peculiar feature of COVID-19 is that it in some percentage of the COVID-19 infected patients, it causes a thing called as COVID-19 cytokine storm, which is evident between 7 to 10 days after the one set of symptoms post infection. Now, in this cytokine storm, there is heavy release of cytokines and chemokines from the human body as a response against the COVID-19 virus. To some extent, it is okay. Is it if it is balanced, the release of cytokines and chemokines is if it is balanced against the pathogen viral load. But in case of COVID-19, if it exaggerates, which happens between 7 to 10 days post the one set, and if it is added by an underlying organ failure or organ dysfunction, then this cytokines and chemicals get released in enormous numbers, and finally they get exhausted or burned out. That leads to multi-system organ leads to multi-system organ failure. So that is about cytokine storm, which is a complication of COVID-19 infection. Now, that also hyperimmune response. Another thing is about the booster doses. If you're referring to booster doses, booster dose, once vaccine is given, the antibodies remains to about 3 to 6 months. By 6 months isn't we have a very negligible antibodies, but it is not only antibodies that is offering protection against COVID-19. There are in if I refer to my slides.
Yes.
If you see this, where after the entry of the coronavirus into the cells, there is release of B cells and T cells. B cells causes release of antibodies to which fights against the COVID virus. Also, the T helper cells and cytotoxic T cells causes destruction of the virus infected cells. In addition, there is a release of memory B cells and T cells. Now, post vaccination, even if the antibodies level becomes negligible by 6 months, the memory B cells and T cells remain activated, which offers the further protection, though less effective. Hence, booster doses is will seeing this pandemic, seeing the shortage of the vaccines, and it won't be ethical to give booster doses at this time to the population. Let us first. There is a huge proportion of the world population who has still not received the first dose or the primary dose. Let it's a global issue. Let everyone let the majority of let the herd immunity get created. Let the majority of the world population get immunized, and then we can go for the booster doses. At this time, there's no requirement of the booster dose. And as we see for the COVID-19, there's also an issue of hyperimmune response.
Great. So, that also answers another important question of the booster dose. But it really, I wanted to bring the point of the immune boosting with you, and I wanted the audience to understand that, over immunity, which in simple language is also not what we want. We want an what do you say, immunobalance
Yeah.
between the acquired immunity and the innate immunity, and that's what the earlier an acquired immunity gets into action, the better. But yes, but yet we still not it's still not advisable that you're going to need a booster dose. We'll have to wait and watch till we get more information, as you suggested. So I think with on that point, allow me to share a few slides. I'm going to run them quick on the lines of oxidative stress, inflammation, because while we're scared that what's going to happen if this new virus is going to eat us up, is the vaccine going to work? So many questions. But amidst that, what is really happening is all of us have been sitting at home for a long time. We are seeing so many deaths are occurring due to cardiac arrest. There are people who are uh, falling dead in gymnasiums, and this is more alarming on the other side. So these are the times when I think a lifestyle and a nutrition regimen has to be in place. A fitness regimen has to be in place, regardless of the fact if we are indoors or not. Just want to. I love the slide, so I love to show it in almost all of my presentations to understand that phenotype, as in what we are. What we are is the genes, the environment, and nutrition. Right now, we know that genes can be altered. We cannot change the environment right now. We just cannot say that COVID-19 has gone away. What it is right now. So what really can be actually made we can take care of is the nutrition, and nutrition can really be a equally a good guard, so that we can get that immunocompetence, immunobalance, or immunomodulation that is required to stay safe in these kind of conditions. And of course, 70% nutrition and 30% workout. Though the 30% of workout, we're not able to do it at large right now, but what we can do is at least at home. Also, we can do n number of exercises very easily, and which can be practiced. I have of course done few videos and programs on it, so that to showing people now what can be done at home. So make sure that we get this balance back to our life of 70% good nutrition and 30% of essential overall body exercise. So we all talk about nutrition, exercise, and sleep again is extremely important. People talk about mental weakness, strength, etc. It's really mindfulness that we need to bring back to our life in several ways, where nutrition can of course help. We all know that we have to do all this: adequate sleep, balanced diet. Everyone has been talking about this. But really, what is important, I feel, in these conditions, while we are following a balanced diet, which is, whole grains one fourth, protein one fourth of our plate, the remaining half should be vegetables and fruits and water, healthy oils. We all talk about this. This is all there over and everywhere on Google. But really, what we also need to additionally balance with this is alkaline and acidic foods. It is if we have too much of acidic environment in our body, then what happens is we are not able to digest our foods well, and if we are not able to do that, all those ingredients which we feel are going to support our immunity and which is going to support our wellness, better nutrition, the uptake doesn't occur. So it's always we have to make sure that while we're eating proteins, we have to understand, everyone talks about eating protein at this time, but they are acidic in nature. So we need to balance them with fruits, vegetables, and consume it form of legumes that are little, they have proteins, but at the same time they're alkaline in nature. So make sure I put a list out here of things that we can actually balance out when it comes to balancing of foods. And most important, I think something which I've seen many women ignore is, water. Dehydration has actually been there are several papers that are published in through the infection, through the pandemic, that 70 we all know 75% of our body weight is water, and body requires cells at the cellular level need water. And if that's not there, then the body's competency to fight infections is going to go down. It has been observed that when we have the infection, there is fever, sweat, because we're fighting the infection. There is dehydration that occurs. A lot of there are patients who have had diarrhea, vomiting, nausea is always there. All these really sap the water that we are having, as well as the same time, diabetes and other comorbidities and high sugar levels can actually cause dehydration. So we have to make sure that there are several symptoms that we get, but we don't look at them. So make sure that we hydrate ourselves. American Society for Parenteral Enteral Nutrition talks about nutrition and hydration becoming being so much of a key weapon in fighting infections. So make sure that body fluid, fat and muscle losses, while they impact the fight towards this infection, we have to stay hydrated. Now when we have to stay hydrated, really understand, with that comes the electrolyte imbalances. And why is dehydration occurring? Also because there is electrolyte imbalance, and there is again data which suggests that there is electrolyte imbalance in COVID patients. And also, if we go to see, we do not have we'd never think about having an electrolyte balance. We'll try to have a protein and a fiber balance and all those balances, but when it comes to electrolytes, we need to have that also. It's proven that salt induced pathways. I'm not going to get into the T cell immunology too much, but I want you to understand that salt induced pathways play an important role in the T cell immunology, and several other pathways as well when we are fighting these infections. So there are varied immunity nutrient foods that are there. Everyone has spoken about zinc, vitamin C, iron, vitamin E, but there has to be a balance of all this along with the electrolytes. So make sure that we are drinking enough water. We are maintaining the electrolyte balance. If need be, I suggest you should go for supplementation. Also take antioxidants. Do not claim, don't get fooled by immune boosters. These are actually immunomodulators. There are also herbs which are talked about: amla, ashwagandha, green tea, grapeseed. All of these are good antioxidants. So you make sure that they are taken so that they can reduce the oxidative stress. So quickly moving forward, want to talk about proteins also. Why we should consume proteins and how they have a protective uh, here, we did mention about antibodies being most important. Dr. Kamble just mentioned that. So it's very important that when proteins break down to amino acids, these amino acids are actually required for antibody production. So understand that it's very, as while we need energy in these kind of situations, we need to keep overall health because of proteins. Antibodies is something which is critical. So we need to consume proteins. There are studies which say that protein and the right amino acids. So when you're eating proteins, make sure you're eating right amino acids, which will which will help in production of antibodies, and which will also help fight the infections in several different ways. Of course, foods. If you can have a balance of meat, at the same time dairy and vegetarian proteins, that's the best. But if you are non-vegetarian, if you're a vegetarian also, you can have a balance of dairy and legumes and paneer, and nuts. Make sure we get a balance and enough proteins out of these sources. And like I said, make sure that these give you the right amino acids which can help you fight the infections at the cellular level. Glutamine, arginine are two very important amino acids when we come to that. Again, I won't go too much deeper into the science, but understand that nitric oxide, which is produced by arginine, has been, it has shown there's a role seen in SARS-CoV. in inhibiting the SARS-CoV replication cycle and more. So not just not just that arginine helps strengthening the immune system by enhancing the T cell activity, but it also does this. So also nitric oxide really helps improve circulation. It brings down inflammation. So in cases which are severe, it's better that we already consume such proteins. So of course, the oxidative stress and chronic inflammation is what Dr. Kamble also explained to us, that these are the underlying notorious ones which can actually make the infection more severe and deadly. Oxidative inflammation and oxidation are actually our immune processes. Dr. Kamble explained that to us, and it's they safeguard us against the pathogens. But if we have too much of it, and if oxidation and oxidative stress and inflammation, if they pre-exist, they always coexist. They can actually aggravate the infections. So in order to keep that again at bay, because that can affect a lot of our organs as well, which we are seeing in long COVID, that a lot of organs are getting affected. Evidence suggests against that, poor nutrition status is associated with oxidative stress and inflammation. So, which can in turn impact our immune system. I won't go too much into the long COVID things. I can do that later if there are more questions. But there are a lot of anti-inflammatory ingredients which we can consume, which are there, including vitamin C. Too, there are so many herbs. We can consume them. But while we are consuming this, and while we are taking critical vitamins and minerals, which is critical for actually the uptake of nutrients, it's very, very important to do this with a proper advice. Just as we take proper advice from the doctors for overcoming our infections, very important to take an individualized advice while we are actually consuming different types of foods, if we are trying to also take supplements, because they should be safe at the same time very effective. Another quick point I want to make here is that what we eat, if the mood that we are in right now, if fear takes over fats, then the mood is impacting our digestion, and indirectly, the other way around, food impacts our mood as well. So if we can actually eat the right foods and have a good sound, peaceful life, we can actually better fight these kind of infections. And I always emphatically talk about enzymes. If we are falling short of them, this is another area where supplementation is needed, so that there is better uptake of all kind of nutrients, and especially the immunity nutrients in these times. And I'll again in the end emphasize that COVID has treated every individual differently. So pandemic has really proved the power of nutrition. But while we are doing that, disease, internal organs, nutrition status, all this is different and complex in every individual. So what works for one may not really work for the other. So it's better to do a holistic assessment of every individual and take an individual advice. So that's in a gist the nutrition bit from me. We of course have two more of our speakers joined in here as well. Um, can I take the liberty of welcoming Dr. Mohan on the virtual stage, please? If you can join us, sir. And I believe Dr. Godse is also joined us in. So, Dr. Mohan, can we have your video on?
think we are on.
Okay, I'm going to try to get you on the virtual stage as well. Um it's a pleasure to have all of you here in, and I'm going to add Dr. Godse as well to the panel. Welcome, a warm welcome to all four of you. Dr. Godse, welcome from you're straight here from Pittsburgh. It's such a pleasure to have you, and Dr. Mohan is here from Pune. So I'm going to introduce both of you, and then I think we will jump into the questions again. Uh, so. Dr. Katie Mohan is here, and he's MD Critical Care Medicine USA. He's FACP, that is Fellow of American College of Physicians USA. He's ABIM, that is the board certified in medicine. He's physician, diabetologist, heart pulmonology, and thyroid specialist. So the added interest, of course, he is co-founder of Syntegi IT Healthcare Private Limited. So he is, of course, with all the great assets that he has, he's trying to integrate technology with healthcare, and that's another great thing which has helped us through this pandemic. And he's chairman of the Ashraya Rehabilitation and Geriatric Care here in Pune, and he has a rich, vast experience in this field, being worked in Harbour Health Nursing Rehabilitation Center, Lewis Convalescent Care, and Hillsborough Nursing and Rehabilitation Center, Delaware. So, uh, Dr. Mohan, a warm welcome to you. I know there are, yeah, give me, let me share the slide with the audience, because there is a lot I can, sit here and introduce you in the entire program. But that's what you are with us, and you've also worked with the Aditya Birla and AIMS Hospital in Pune, and you're serving as a consultant there, and you're also director with the Apple Hospital, Apple Pulmonology and Sleep Care Center. So multifacets that you have, and we have few questions. I'm going to shoot at you, but before that, let me also introduce our very much awaited speaker as well here, Dr. Ravi Godse. He's an Indian-born doctor who's currently in Pittsburgh, United States. He's of course graduated from the Bombay Medical School in 1992. He's of course graduated from KEM, and I'm sure there are a few doctors here who have joined in here who know him from those days. I would also give his other introduction. While through COVID, he has seen so many cases, and he has so many insights which he's going to share with us. But on the other hand, he also has another passion, which is direction and actually production of movies. And he has related those movies with health issues also. Help you remember amnesia. What a title! And Dr. Ravi and Mr. Hyde. So it's a pleasure to have both of you here as well. And give me the liberty to start shooting questions at you, Dr. Mohan. You are our next speaker really, but with your vast knowledge and experience, and especially the way you're treating so many patients with respiratory diseases and disorders. What do we- what I would ask you, I mean, the main question again, COVID-19 in 2021, 2022, 2020, 2021, and now, how do you envision it to be in 2022? So this question really is for both of you, Dr. Mohan and Dr. Godse. This is what is troubling all of us.
Thank you, Rajashree, for giving the platform to express our vision and knowledge. It was a nice talk by Dr. Kamble, and Dr. Godse is here. Welcome. So basically, we have gone through 2 years of COVID now. We are stepping into the third year in 2022. So one advantage is India has more than 1 crore of people vaccinated. And somehow after the second dramatic wave, when so many deaths happened, somehow we settled down quietly with the less number of cases. So the question is Omicron, what's going to happen? So in general, I think what my gut feeling is this should be a mild disease, but it's maybe a super spreader, maybe mild symptoms with the vaccinated people. And elderly people, immunosuppressed, lung problems, they might get some moderate symptoms, might need to get admitted, but it's just a thinking process. We don't know yet how bad is this virus is. So far, by the what's going on in the by WHO and in South Africa, it looks like a milder disease. Maybe children and more than 60 years of age might get a little bit moderate disease, might need admissions. So booster dose, as Dr. Kamble said, we don't know yet. Whether it's going to help, whether it's going to cover the Omicron 30 mutations or not, we don't know yet, but it might help to boost the immunity to neutralize the antibodies. Even the monoclonal antibodies that we have, we don't know whether it's going to work for Omicron. I think the Bangalore doctor who got the infection, he might have taken the monoclonal antibody on the second day or third day before the 5 day, within the 5 days of the infection to neutralize the antibodies. So still there are a lot of questions to answer. We don't know, but still we have to prepare for the pediatric cases. That's what I am worried about, because under 12 years of age, we are not vaccinated yet. So some cases in South Africa, we see some kids are getting admitted from the Omicron. So our hospital capacity for pediatrics, ICU, and things should increase to prepare for that in case if we get pediatric COVID Omicron infections. So this is where we are in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's a troubling question. I'm going to ask you more details on the pediatric side of it because we're still not vaccinated. But I want to put that question to Dr. Godse too in his style. Really, I'm sure you can say a few things to our viewers before you answer the question. But the question really is that is it that should we start treating? Should we think that it's going to be an Amrish Puri, Kulbhushan Kharbanda coming next, or is it going to be just Jagdeep? The eyes are going to be big, but it's still not going to be very serious. So
It's going to be Mr. India. We won't see it. Okay, and I'll tell you why. First of all, there are many countries in the world that are more than 90% vaccination, like United Arab Emirates. Like there are many countries, South Korea. Singapore has done really well. They don't have that many natural cases. There are some countries in the world, there was like natural cases galore, like Brazil, especially with the P variant. South Africa had a lot of natural cases. But nobody takes a cake, candle, or anything to India in terms of natural cases during the second wave. Behind every one case, there were at least 50 cases hidden. When we said we had 4 lakh cases, we were infecting 2 crore people a day, which were getting better in 9 days and joining our fight. So on that basis, I had confidently predicted in March and April that there will be no third wave. And there was no third wave. Omicron, we are saying it will do this, that. I think Omicron will have harder time finding foothold in India. It can, but India is the only country that has the natural infections also and crores of vaccinations also. So for it to take hold, it has to spread. So I don't think it will spread that effectively. And it seems to be causing a milder disease. That is true. It's very early yet. Only interesting part is the whole basis of India's protection was natural infections. And now there are some early reports out of South Africa that this could be little better at piercing the natural infection cover than the vaccination. So what we need to do now, I can guarantee, I was just on a big TV show and I guaranteed no third wave for India in Omicron. But against no Delta third wave, it was on its own. Against Omicron third wave, I want 2 things, both from the government, nothing from the people. I've about had it telling people what to do. They're doing it for 2.5 years. So irresponsible Indian people is not a solution, it's an excuse. We need to fix this mess. To tell you a quick example, I was on Arnab Goswami's shows and India's vaccine chief was with me and I was making Arnab's point and he started suddenly yelling at me. It's like so strange. I just didn't get it why all those people were yelling at me. My point was simple. Start the booster for healthcare workers today. Previously, I was saying that boosters are not that much needed for India because of natural immunity. But now even Fauci is saying we are seeing evidence that boosters will help to even prevent mild disease. Indian healthcare workers took Covishield by the gap of 4 weeks. That is the weakest possible efficacy. So start the boosters today. Start the boosters today for any Indian over 18 who wants to buy it at his own cost, at his own risk. And start the pediatric vaccination. So the question that I posted to the India's vaccine chief was, if you have Omicron's cell phone number, please share it with me. I want to call him. You must have his cell phone number because you're going to 8 weeks to make his decision. You must have told Omicron to stop for 8 weeks and not infect India. Because this is crazy. We need to start those things today and then we will be fine. I would still say there won't be a wave in India, like the hospitalizations where there was no oxygen. We'll still be okay, but we can avert even the cases by doing this booster and the pediatric vaccination strategy. And monoclonals, means I'm using monoclonals with such effectiveness in US. I just ordered it while I was on the Zoom call. I just ordered it for a patient of mine. They're working great.
Great. Did Dr. Kamble want to add anything? So you'll have to unmute yourself.
Rightly said, sir. I agree with whatever sir said. Pediatric vaccination is it's like an emergency. Pediatric vaccination.
So I think now that we are touching on the pediatric point, and of course I am a mother as well. So this is really a question that's I know it's grappling a lot of mothers like us. You know, on one side they're saying the schools are going to start. On the other side, we just don't know when the vaccine is going to come. So what is your advice? I mean, till meanwhile that kids get the vaccine, what should mothers do? I mean, should they send their kids to school? Should they take them out for a fitness class? Given the Indian scenario, I mean, yeah, it's tough because no matter where you're going, it's going to be crowded, especially in the cities. So any sort of advice, because while I take the point that we need the vaccination at the earliest, what do we do till then? I mean, we are in a situation where we really don't know what to do.
It's a question to me. Yeah.
Any of you panelists, I think any of you can take it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm not a pediatrician, so I don't know much about kids.
Yes.
But
Yes.
just not knowing about something has never prevented me on talking about it.
Yeah.
So I think during second wave, we saw a lot of kids also getting infected without knowing. So India should have a basis. If you check serosurveillance in kids, you shouldn't. I'm not telling you to test antibodies. I think many kids were also infected during the second wave, more than we think. So we have some level of protection. That is one thing. Second thing is, we have to start sometime, right? Schools have to start. We don't want to breed politicians. We also want scientists and doctors. So people have to go to school. So the schools have to start sometime. So if you are a parent and you are anxious, I can understand the anxiety, but it has to start now because there could be psychiatric effects on the kids if they are not able to associate with their peers during formative ages. And the COVID might go in a year, but those effects will linger for the rest of their life for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So we have to be very cognizant of that. My only problem, again, coming back to India's committee, my only problem with the approach and the whole thing philosophically about India, which is my roots involved, I have a problem with Arjun. Means he had 1 year in Ajnatwas when he was doing Kathak to think all this through. But when the battle started, he wanted to listen to Gita. What nonsense here. December 1st, the school are going to open. And we don't have a policy for 4 months. Means we don't hold our officials accountable. They work for us. They need to do it. Otherwise, then they need to let go. I mean, what nonsense. Why can the Indian parents demand? I say, at risk, at cost. Let the parents decide who the hell are these people coming in between. I never talk about Pfizer because people said, oh, are you an agent of foreign vaccine? India also has an mRNA vaccine. Pfizer vaccine from kid 5 to 11, they changed the formula. They changed the preserver. They use just 1/3 of the dose. So if you buy 1 dose for Yudhishthir, you get Yudhishthir, Bhim and Arjun. 1 dose, 3 kids. This is much safer, much easier. It works 100%. Why the hell not? If the Indian parents who have the money and want to take the risk based on the US research want to give Pfizer vaccine to their kid 3 months, why not? Means why rich Indian parents? Is that an accident of geography that they are kept away from this? India also has this mRNA vaccine. Covaxin submitted its data on kids on October 5th. Now, December 5th, for 3 months, are they reading papers? Like, what is going on? Like, I'm getting really exasperated with their slowness. But to answer your question as a parent, schools have to start sometime. Okay, so
Yep.
that's it.
Yeah, I mean, you're just sounding you're not sounding good. I mean, that's exactly what we are wondering as well. That when it's already, uh, it should come any time is what we are hearing for quite a few months. So, but Dr. Mohan, yeah, that leads to another question because I know then there are patients. While we are talking about this, we hear things from media that of course there was Delta scare. Now we have Omicron fear and black fungus. All these things are a little, when it comes to, no matter how much we think that kids are a little better off with this infection, uh, that creates more anxiety. So what's really your suggestion also? Because having dealt with more severe cases, your advice would actually be really good for us.
So as a parent, the kids are very precious for all of us. So we have 1 or 2 kids nowadays, so we need to be careful how to protect them. And as Dr. Godse said, we have to be start the school sooner the better. We can't depend on online forever. So having said that, natural immunity might have kicked in Delta wave in India because sero surveillance is showing that some kids have exposed to the virus and has some natural immunity. I mean, regarding the vaccine, I agree that we need to start the vaccine as soon as possible. I don't know what is the holding back on that. What the problem going on there? I think Serum Institute is producing a lot of vaccines. As per my knowledge, they have got enough stock, and Covaxin also ready for the vaccination. I think the government has to decide from the higher end when to start it. That's the one question. So again, after the vaccination, it might take another 4 to 6 weeks before the minimum immunizations to start. So the school might not start until March or April. The way, if we keep going with the Omicron, if we don't do the vaccination, we might not able to start the school. Maybe not even March, April looks like. Keeps postponing and postponing. Yeah. So having said that, still kids has to play. They have to get together with their friends and family. They're still doing it. We can't control them. We can't hide them in the home. So they play downstairs with all the other kids. So I think they will be exposed to another wave of natural immunity as Omicron goes very fast. It's a very highly fast, fastidious spreading a virus. So I think it might cause another natural wave immunity in India before we realize it. That's what I am thinking. I think Dr. Godse will agree on that. Yeah.
Another point which Dr. Godse really touched upon is about these other infections. Now so there are a couple of questions there. One, of course, does the weather change really affect the way COVID-19 will behave? And the other thing is now we are having change in weather. We had monsoon, like I mentioned earlier. We had monsoon in Mumbai, and we have been joking that we might have a white Christmas next time in Mumbai. But if this is going to be the weather change, we're having so many other infections coming up. So, will these infections sort of make us more prone to COVID-19, or maybe is someone already infected with COVID-19 more prone to these infections? I mean, if you can clarify on that a little bit, Dr. Godse and Dr. Mohan.
Yeah,
You know,
I think Dr.
sorry, go
Godse
ahead.
can go. Yeah, he can take an answer.
No, go ahead, Dr. Mohan. Yeah. पहले आप, right.
No, actually, I, I think I read somewhere else that if COVID infections are very severe in the coastal areas, if you take in India, Kerala, Mumbai, Maharashtra, where the case loads were higher in the warmer, humid weather. I don't know whether there is a relationship to the virus. We thought the warm, humid weather will stay the virus away, but and the cold and colder weather likes the virus like the colder weather to replicate or whatever it is. But the more case burden was more in the coastal areas in India. I don't know whether it's just an observation. I don't know whether it's any data on that. But as the cold weather kicks in, as well as in US, as well as India, we are more prone for viral infections as such, like a cold, common cold, allergies, all this kicks in. More prone for exposure to the virus and allergy problems. So, especially with the kids, you have to be careful. They can get into these allergy problems, and they're more prone to expose to this virus, especially with the pulmonary. I'm a pulmonologist. I always say better to control your allergy and asthma under control. If the virus kicks in, if you're not under control, you'll be end up in the hospital in the ICU. So better to control these chronic illnesses, especially asthma, allergy, lung problems, COPD, hypertension, diabetes. We forget that, especially with the nutrition, because a lot of stress of the social media, all these things can make your immunity go down from the stress of the bombardment of medias. So you have to take care of the chronic illness. You have to do some stress relieving activities, as well as nutrition, as the Rajashree said, to keep us fit to fight these infections as much as possible. Let's go to
I don't think the cold weather per se affects the virus.
Yeah.
I think it's more the human behavior that drives it. Because in cold weather, we tend to segregate, not segregate, come together.
Yeah, come together.
Why we are seeing cases in Europe now? Delta started in India in October 2020. By the time it spread to the rest of the world, the winter was over. So this is the first time in the history that Europe is combating Delta and winter with people inside together. That's why they are seeing a lot of cases. Now, regarding the natural infection, other infections, I think actually that helps us. In January 2021, I had predicted, and I got a lot of flack for that, I had predicted that India's pandemic will end on 26th January. And I was like roasted on that. But that prediction was based on, I had said 40% Indians had COVID, 15% Indians should be vaccinated, and 1% Ram Bharose. So that will be 56 threshold. So people said, where did you get this threshold of 56%? Fauci was saying 70%. So where did you get 56? Why did you subtract those 14? And the answer to that is, coronaviruses have been there for a long time. We discovered it at around 1956 maybe. The first bad one was SARS-1. That was in 2003. Then came the MERS. But MERS was different. So the common cold that we used to get as a child is also a type of coronavirus. And the amount of common cold we get, nobody in the world gets. So we start off with a level of cross protection. Again, that's why India's death rate has been the lowest. So again, coming back to the committee, like they really drive me nuts, India's committee. Means they have such swagger, you know. I mean, the people who are smart, they can be rude. But, you know, I just don't get it. So had they vaccinated, they approved Covaxin on January 3rd. By that logic, they could have approved Covishield on September 3rd. Had they vaccinated enough Indians in December 2020, there would be no Delta, no second wave anywhere in the world. Na rahega baas, na bajegi basuri. But anyway, that's water under the bridge. So right now, I think those common infections that we get make us stronger. Friedrich Nietzsche used to say, the one that doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So we are fine.
Sorry about the disturbance. Yeah. Okay. So I think you've in that really, Dr. Godse, really cleared a lot of doubts that keep running through our minds all the time. But while we're doing that, does Dr. Kamble have any more inputs on that? Because I'm sure this is something you day in day out are dealing with.
Regarding this thing like this common cold viruses, I agree with this Godse sir. Yeah, this provides some level of cross immunity also, and as we see people presenting such respiratory symptoms get identified with other group of coronaviruses also when we check on molecular panels. So there is a cross immunity, and this offers some level of protection. And that, and in India we have used the prevalence of this common cold is more as a protection, is a partial immunity to us against COVID.
Perfect. So I think few more clarifications from you. Rather, you've already said that. But another notion, though I know a lot has to come from the government end, but from our end also, there's always confusion when we talk about immunity. And Dr. Kamble did address this earlier in the presentation, but I want to put that question to both of you. Another thing, we have immunity is something which is totally understood, is what I think. We run away from microbiology and immunity as subjects when we do our college and school. So, can you really help us understand that? Because everyone talks about boosting immunity, and I want you both experts to talk about it. What is boosting immunity? Isn't it about immunocompetence? Isn't it about the balance in the innate and acquired immunity? I mean, what is immune boosting really? So if you can clarify, I'll let Dr. Mohan go first, and then Dr. Godse.
I think, let me answer this question. I get this question from every patient every day in my clinic. They come with their parents, come with the kids, and everybody comes with asthma allergy. I ask one question, first question. What do you think? Your immune system is down or high? Immune system both बेकार है, कम है, इसलिए इतना ज़्यादा allergy हो रहा है. They keep on starting all these things. Then I show them IG level, and I've been using a count. I said, what is this? So I put between the 500, 600, and more than the 3-4 times the normal. I said, what is this? These are all the immune fighters that we have. It's already very high. It's not that your immune system is down. Your immune system is fighting for the allergens already. It's fighting either the bad intake of food or allergies. Your innate immunity is fighting these things. The immune system is already in hyper mode. So we give medicines to calm it down so that you don't get this exacerbation. This is what the education I do day in, day out, so that they can take the inherent medicines to calm down the immune system. The problem is we don't have enough time to discuss about the diet and exercise and all those things. That's the main drawback of our clinic practice in India, because we don't have much time. There's so many patients waiting. So we ended up with saying that don't eat this, don't eat that, and we don't explain properly what to eat. So I think the nutrition has a lot to do with the immune irregularity also, especially with the allergic condition, with the asthma and other diseases. So we are touching upon that also, because that's also a main part of the treatment that we are trying to incorporate in our practice. I think Rajashree is helping us a lot in these things as an expert in the nutrition, because that's a different subject at all. The patient need to be telling about the diet, what they eat, what they have to have a diary, so that we can adjust their diet so that exacerbation can be less. Same thing can be for the other virus also. We can same thing applies. So
I want to add a quick point to Dr. Mohan's, experience here. Is this is what you've seen? I mean, we've seen the people we've lost through COVID here in India. I mean, they are not the ones. Just as Dr. Godse mentioned, probably the more exposed ones are not the ones we lost. The ones we've lost are probably having these comorbidities and the underlying inflammation and oxidative stress because of these other diseases. And it's so very important. That's why that we better have a good nutrition and lifestyle. But on that point, Dr. Godse, both in terms of boosting immunity, what do you think, and what do you think about these underlying causes of inflammation? What's your take on it?
Let me give you a quick answer. One is philosophical and one is scientific. मेरे हम नवस मेरे हम नवा मुझे दोस्त बन के दगा न दे मैं हूँ दर्द इश्क से जाबलब मुझे जिंदगी की दुआ न दे मुझे छोड़ दे मेरे हाल पर तेरा क्या भरोसा है चार अगर ये तेरी नवाज से मुख्तसर मेरा दर्द और बढ़ा न दे. The patient is saying to the doctor, just leave me alone. Don't give me any tonics, and those tonics will make you poorer, but they don't make you any richer in terms of immunity. I think the best immunity is listening to a Mohammad Rafi song, talking to the friends, eating a good diet, and being happy. If a cardiac patient is given a choice between stress and diabetes, stress is 4 times worse than diabetes. So that's most important. That's the philosophical answer to boost your immunity. Scientifically, there are other ways. There is something known, a concept known as recruitment. So if you give one vaccine, that vaccine might non-specifically improve your T cell defense and recruit those T cells, the antigen presenting cells, and make your vaccine response robust. For example, India uses the Bacillus calmette-guerin, BCG. So there was some thought initially whether the countries that have a lot of BCG may have little less COVID. That was not borne out. We were in fact trying BCG in University of Melbourne to try that. So there was a shingle put trial in India, and BCG was shown to be 0% effective, but it still prevents TB meningitis. So we use BCG. So we were thinking whether a vaccine like BCG can like sort of potential your immunity. Another important vaccine is MMR, measles, mumps, rubella. Now I work as a civil surgeon for the government of United States to examine people for the green card. So people who have had MMR, we measure their immunity by doing the measles, mumps, rubella titers. If somebody is from Germany, Japan, or England, 100 out of 100 samples are positive for immunity. If somebody comes from India, in my experience, is about 12% because of the cold storage. So when we got that, so my thought was, and I was told not to tweet about it because that might make a run on the MMR storage, that the people who are not immune against MMR, if they take one MMR shot now as an adult booster, that will help you non-specifically to boost your immunity. Short of that, I won't give any tonic or I won't do anything different. Means our ancestors were so smart. What they taught us, the daily exercises, yoga. I don't know what happened to us, Our ancestors were so damn smart,
I agree totally with you that our ancestors were smart. And a couple of
Yeah.
questions, before we really come to the end of this superb show, is one, of course, technology, and that is something, Dr. Mohan. How much has technology really advanced in COVID, but also how much is it really helpful? Because we know that you run your ICU sitting in one room, but how can it really help us as the people and you as the medical fraternity?
I mean, technology is very important to augment and help you to go beyond your physical boundaries. But having said that, medical field, you need to have the touch of the empathy and the compassion to the patient. There's like a placebo effect, 40%, if you ask me. So that's important. But in a day, we have about 12 hours, 8 hours time. We can't work more than that. But technology can make you to reach people in a many ways to many regions. As you said, you can manage the ICU from sitting in India to the US, same thing. You can do telemedicine as picked up. It's not going to replace it, it's going to augment and help the thing. During the COVID lockdown, people are not moving out. A lot of things are happening at home. The fitness, yoga, online, everything, Zumba, everything is happening online. Why not the nutrition? Why not the other things can happen online? Yes, it's happening. Telemedicine happening. And these are all augmenting the existing infrastructure so that you can reach tier 2, tier 3 cities where there's a lack of knowledge about these things. They have to travel so many hours to the cities to see the specialist. So this can be bypassed significantly. As you grow, if you see our children and the next gen, or the Gen X or whatever the generation we are talking about, they're all into the technology more than us. They live in the technology. So the future is we need to have technology at least like 40%, 60% physical, 40% technology to step up our practice, education, communication with the patient so that we don't just treat the acute care. It should be a holistic approach where you have medicine, nutrition, yoga, meditation, and communication with the patient in a more real time, not just come for the disease, then go home, then come for the next acute visit. That happens all the time in India. 90% of the OPD is just acute visits. and no preventive care. So this can be overcome by having the technology into the system. That we're already witnessing a big boost in the medical technology in the last 2 years.
Great. So on that, I think we'll come to the conclusion of this program. But before that, I would really want to get these final, what I call it, global inputs and insights, or rather takeaways you can leave our viewers with. And should we start with Dr. Kamble?
Just simple measures will help us against this fight in this pandemic against COVID-19, like wearing a face mask, following personal hygiene measures like hand hygiene, using antiseptics, hand wash, and avoiding crowded areas, maintaining a safe distance like at least 3 feet. The simple measures will help. Apart from this vaccination, these simple measures should be followed if you want to in this fight against COVID-19.
Dr. Mohan?
I think, as Dr. Godse said, our forefathers are very smart people, and Vedas and yogis, no doubt in it. But we are in 21st century. We don't follow a lot of things what they say. You should. We are not disciplined. So, so the good diet, everything in moderation with less stress is a long way to make you healthy. And during this COVID, especially, we need these things are meditation, whatever it is, and balanced diet and preventive care. It's a long way to prevent the severity of the COVID catching to you. So whole family has to follow this, not only parents, the kids, everything has to, so that we can fight this COVID menace. It's not going to go away. The variants will keep popping up, but each time it comes, your immunity will keeps getting adapted to that. So like H1N1 swine flu, you might have heard in the 2009-10 when it came to India at that time. It was really, really scary that time. But after that become endemic. So it takes some time to become endemic. So it's not, so I have to patiently wait, do our best, like what Dr. Kamble said, precautions, and go from there.
Over to you, Dr. Godse.
I think COVID pandemic became endemic on July 1st in India. Technology is good, but human touch is important. Means, like I said to Maharashtra government, ki laptop वर लग्न लागतात पण पोरं नाही होत. म्हणजे stop this nonsense. You have to move on sometime. Third thing is, I sit at home, I take all precautions. That's not going to work. The entire world will be exposed to some form of COVID one day or the other. That's just a given. US will be fine now. We are vaccinating. India is already fine. Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore will see a big natural wave in July and August, but then they will be fine, and we will move on. The vaccination will, if the mutation happen, it's a RNA virus. Every year we change the formula for flu virus. So that's not such a big deal. And I think the biggest problem of 2020, the second biggest problem was COVID-19. And first problem was WhatsApp. Means these idiotic forwards need to stop. These anti-vaccine people are really getting to me now. Means they have the freedom of speech and they have a right to feel aggrieved. But means this is crazy. The amount of garbage they keep spewing out. Means like we fine people for not wearing masks 500 rupees. These people need to be fined. They need to issue licenses to be able to post on WhatsApp. I mean, what nonsense. My day starts with like about 360 WhatsApp messages from India asking me, is this true? I can get through my day to answering whether this is true. The simple answer is mostly it's not true. But thanks for inviting me. I need to run. I had to go to a hospital. Thank you, Rajashree.
Before you leave, I just want to make one comment, and I'm glad you say that. And this was one reason why True Wealth actually resorted to these programs, given the amount of media talk, given the amount of forwards and the confusion that's there. These are authentic programs which we try to reach to maximum people with the content that you are trying to put it across. So thanks so much for joining in. I know you have to run. you have
No, I
something
had to go
scheduled
to the
more.
hospital. I had kept 10 minutes. Yeah. But thank you,
Yes,
Rajashree.
sure. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining.
Take care.
But
Thank you.
Thank you,
before the
everybody.
other speakers
Thank
leave,
you, Dr.
I think
Kamble. Thank you, Dr. Mohan. Yeah.
Thank you.
very
Thank you,
much to
sir.
say that Dr. Kamble, you really you're up to taking more and more courses, and you're doing more and more study and research into this, and I think COVID has probably helped you do that more, and you wish that you keep doing more and more of that, or that way we get more and more access to right authentic information.
Thanks,
Dr.
ma'am.
Mohan, I know technology is something which is close to your heart, and holistic care is something which is close to your heart. We wish you the best, and yeah, you've done a lot through that through COVID. So COVID has not been all that bad for us, and Dr. Godse has left, but he has done so many talks which are straight into the face. So we really need that kind of an input, and you have left us really with facts over fear, I would say. What message you all gave us is positivity. Just brave it, but take the precautions, and it's survival of the fittest. So we have to have an holistic approach. Go back to our ancestral lifestyle, nutrition, yoga, and use common sense and stay safe. This is what you are really driven today. So thank you so much for
Thank you.
being with us, and it was a pleasure having you here. And I'll end the program with a small promo from, of course, RSG Nutrition and Healthcare, who always keeps, their team keeps supporting us through these programs and propagating them to many people. So we've already crossed 1 million. I'm sure with such programs, we will reach more number of people across. Thank you so much, Dr. Kamble, for joining me, joining us, and Dr. Mohan, it's
Thanks a
always
lot,
a
ma'am.
pleasure. And of course, Dr. Godse also for being with us through his busy and running schedule, because it's morning out there. So thank you so much again.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.